My analysis table. It is useful for my work.
Just be careful with the plants during your inspection.
Such masks are generally gloves.
Do they grow dangerous plants here?
This student's book belongs to Albert. This student's book belongs... Chemicals, a sufficient quantity for some serious experiments. I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Martin Hamish's perception of plants. The notion of communication in the plant world has long been considered marginal, yet I remain convinced that some plants do indeed transmit chemical signals in the event of attack.
A study report by Martin Hamish. I don't hear anything.
And it seems clear from these multiple experiments that plants do respond to their environment and have a form of consciousness. Margaret White, February 1895. Report number 245.
Study report. A thesis written by Martin Hamish. These young plants must be delicate if they are kept in the nursery. I am curious if the marble that we found... Here it is. The marble fragment that we found in the Colonial Collection Room is what they have in common. It is a bust of Montague Dunn. The seeds of plant species are stored here.
Poor Mr. Montague Dunn. It is so awful.
From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. These leather gloves are new and of good quality. They do not appear to have been used. A book about... A water tank. A ventilation system. It should regulate the temperature of the staff buildings. The symbol is not... The symbol is... According to this, they have light and moisture control in some parts of the building. Here is a list of...
Do not touch.
Excuse me, but I have to tidy up this room.
Palm House. Miss White's locker. Apparently, Miss... These jewels. Miss White's locker. A review. Martin Hay. A review on rare and exotic plants. Martin Hamish has written several pieces. Martin Hamish. Specialist articles on shipyards and ship construction. Specialist. A picture of Miss White and Albert in front of the University of London.
And they seem to get along.
A botany book. A botany book. Several drops of the substance were
Gold.
The gold is almost immune.
But why would
There was a bottle here. Several.
Poor Mr. Montague Dunn. It is so awful.
From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. This is one of the outlets of the ventilation system. This is one of the outlets of the ventilation system.
What should we do next, Holmes?
Palm House. There is a bust of Montague Dunn in the nursery.
A bust? Oh, that old thing. Further proof of that outrageous ego of his.
But why in that room in particular?
Oh, I don't know. It has always been there.
There is a bust.
A bust?
But why?
Oh, I don't know. It has always been there.
It is strange, because I recovered a fragment of the bust inside the Colonial Collection Room.
Really? Oh, well, so I am mistaken. It ought to have been removed during the cleanup. This room is so small.
Do you know who moved it?
I have no idea. Surely Mr. Dunn requested it. Do you have any more questions like this? Because fragments of rock are not my responsibility.
Evidently. Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
Excuse me, but I have to tidy up this room.
A task list for Albert, compiled by Martin Hamish. Sweep out the palm house, scrub the toilets, clean the storage shed tools. According to this, they have light and moisture control in some parts of the building. These plants come from all the territories of the British Empire. The smell is strong. It is a detergent. These windows were perfectly cleaned. These plants come from all the territories of the British Empire. protected. Someone set it alight, but it did not burn. Someone set it alight. Someone set it. The remains of a picture frame. The plants were set alight fairly recently. Some have not completely burned. A door handle? Why would anyone throw such a thing in the fire? The door handle to the colonial collection and that of the fireplace are made of the same material. A broom handle was... A glasses case. It is empty. This area serves as Martin Hamish's office. This sign is broken. Something heavy was dropped upon it. According to this, these trees, with their roots in water, must originate from Louisiana.
Ah, yes, the bayou. I remember our visit in the case of the Awakened. Do not touch.
The plants were here. All of them were stolen.
Do not touch.
Excuse me, but I have to tidy up this room.
Here it is. And here is the Divine Syndicate's address. Perfect. It is time to find out what they have against Montague Dunn.
This place is beautiful, Holmes. Its atmosphere is remarkably soothing.
Let us find someone who could help us. Fragments of a flower pot. Fragments. A fragment of a flower pot. The Kью-Gardens symbol. Fragments of a flower pot. It fell down here. A fragment of a flower pot. Locked. Locked. Good day to you, sir. My name is
I am exalting the sap. A while can you wait? From the trace of elements and moreover from the quality of the ambient geotropism it depends. Therefore, please, mind my gravitropism. Its balance. Do not disturb.
Disturbed is most definitely the word.
There. Completed is the symbiosis. Welcomed you are. To introduce myself, I am the Green Grand Mystic.
The Green Grand Mystic himself.
This is me. Who am I speaking to?
We are two gentlemen who are extremely interested in the vegetation philosophy that is advocated by this establishment.
Listening to you, I am.
We should like to take a look around, to immerse ourselves in the wisdom that emanates from here.
It is a school of anastomosis, the divine scholastic syndicate for vegetation veneration and meditation. You may say, the divine syndicate, glory to the eukaryotic. Only true devotees, those whose hearts are ready to spermatophize in sharing of knowledge, are permitted to physically enter our vegetable kingdom and its wisdom. And to be permitted, you must earn it. Yes.
Do you have friends at Kью-Гарденс?
None. Not worthy there.
Do you have...
None. Not worthy there.
Do you...
None. Not worthy there.
Do you...
None. Not worthy there.
Nevertheless, we have seen Kью-Гарденс flower pots in your yard. How could they happen to be there?
What? Our sacred place you permitted yourself to search? Sacrilege.
No, really now. There was a theft of plants at Kью-Гарденс a matter of days ago, and we believe the pots we found here may be connected with it. Please tell us, were you involved?
No. Those plants were ours. They had stolen them from us.
How so?
Their director, Dump, I believe.
Done.
Yes, that's what I said. He borrowed from us 3 of our sisters for the exhibition at his green fly-infested gardens. But he never gave them back to us. Excuses and imbecility. So we went in and saved them.
I see. So, if you stole those rare plants from them, then it means... Ah, I get it. Bravo, Holmes. I think the case is solved.
No, we did not steal. We saved. Well, as a matter of fact, we were unable to find our 3 plants.
I beg your pardon. And yet you took all of the exotic plants from the stand.
They had disappeared. It was the least we could do. They stole our sisters, and so we stole theirs.
Green Grand...
What is the name of our Lord, our God King?
Our God King's name is Treewan, Green Grand Mystic.
Hola.
Thank you.
I pray you to taste our raw.
Well, we will leave you to your meditation. That should be the raw sap that the Green Grand Mystic spoke of. It is rather delicious, and of an excellent quality.
My word, Holmes. Their sap is like a form of cocaine.
It is rather...
My word, Holmes.
This must be Treewan, the divine... This door is locked, but I can try to open it. These instruments are used for smoking opium. These instruments are used for smoking opium. A vast amount of opium. That would be enough to perform the most difficult of chemical experiments. This substance is an alkaloid, the same as in the bottle we found in the bushes at Kью-Гарденс. This cabinet is full of chemicals. They are the same as the ones we found in the laboratory at Kью-Гарденс. This cabinet is... This cabinet... That would be enough to perform the most difficult of chemical experiments. Caterpillars. They are raised as food for certain plants. Let's take them. A tropical plant. Nothing of interest. 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 These three plants are identical to the ones shown at the exhibition. I shall take them. A tropical plant. Nothing of interest. A tropical plant. Perfect, Watson. We can begin our experiment. That would be enough to perform the most difficult of chemical experiments. That would be enough to perform the most difficult of chemical experiments. I imagine that one of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic vapor. I need to find out exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now. Watson, if you are at all optimistic to have dinner this evening, then I'd recommend that you put on the gas mask. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating. I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. How interesting. It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it. This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it. This plant It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more. I am interested in what might occur. It appears to... No reaction. This plant becomes inactive. This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it. This plant. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it. The plants would be capable of killing only if they were directly next to the victim and stimulated at precisely the right moment.
Let us take our caterpillars to the Colonial Collection Room. We may see things more clearly there.
It is too early, Watson. Our suspects will be there. Let us investigate Kью-Гарденс one more time and ask some questions. Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunn on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly I observed that Mr. Dunn was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation. Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious? Ah, these Latin names. And I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
Yes. He came here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit. There was nothing unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the backyard. It was perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Then about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned here.
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh, my God.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon. Can you tell me what Mr. Dunn was doing upon the day of his death?
I can. Tuesday is the day of his weekly visit. It was supposed to be at 9, but he was 10 minutes late, as usual.
And then?
Well, he came in to say good morning. Then I saw him spend 2 or 3 minutes by the plants outside the laboratory. After that, he ran out in the direction of the nursery, where Mr. Hamish was working. He was always in a rush during the inspection, you see. I would pity anyone who stood in his way.
And that was the last time you saw him?
Yes. I stayed in the laboratory until 20 minutes to 11, when I heard the cries of Albert and Mr. Hamish from the large glass house.
I joined them as soon as I could, for I knew that something must be very wrong.
What exactly were you doing in the laboratory?
I was recording an experiment for my thesis. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10 o'clock.
You say you were recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. Might I listen to the roll?
Certainly. Please do. You will find it in the laboratory. It is number 320.
Thank you, miss.
Everyone has gone, Holmes. The way is clear.
No, it wasn't like that. No, it wasn't like that. No, it wasn't like that. My analysis table. It is useful for my work. Oh dear, Toby. I wasn't aware that you were Watson's new literary... When Montague Dunn was standing close by the plants, the caterpillars were released and caused the deadly spores to activate. Panicking, and likely already half asphyxiated, Montague Dunn started back and knocked over the bust. He rushed to the door, but it was locked. He had to force it open with his shoulder. We already know the outcome. Montague Dunn collapsed and died not far from the pool. Well, it is time to perform our experiment on the ventilation system. First of all, I need to visit the Colonial Collection Room to see how those caterpillars dropped onto the deadly plants.
Do not touch.
The plant. These plants come from all. The caterpillars could only fall from the ventilation duct. Our caterpillars are in place. I'll activate the ventilation system so that they fall down. Watson, stay here and observe.
All right.
The smell is strong. It is a detergent.
We have to activate the ventilation system. We have to activate the ventilation system. We have to activate the ventilation system.
The smell is strong. It is a detergent.
We have to activate the ventilation system.
The power is on. The engine cannot be started whilst the transmission is active. The engine has started. The ventilation system is working.
Now we need to see if we can activate the fans from Mr. Hamish's and Albert's space.
Excellent. This ventilation fan is working. Let us see if I can activate the other one. From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room.
Now we need to see if we can activate the fans from Mr. Hamish's and Albert's space.
These windows were perfectly cleaned. The smell is strong. It is a detergent. A protected... From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. Before I activate the fan, I need to check if the interior of the Colonial Collection Room can be seen from here. We can see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room from this window. Perfect. Now I just need to find Watson to check the result.
It works perfectly, Holmes. Bravo. Now, if you could just help me to get rid of these caterpillars.
Perfect. Now we know how the murder of Montague Dunn was carried out, by activating both Albert's and Mr. Hamish's fans.
But only from Mr. Hamish's workplace would it be possible to see when Montague Dunn entered the Colonial Collection Room. Let's go to Scotland Yard.
Inspector, I believe...
Aha! I knew it. I'll send the lads around to arrest him.
Very good. I shall wait to hear from you. Inspector, I came here as quickly as I could.
Martin Hamish is in the large glass house. There's no need to hurry.
Holmes, my God!
Yes, we found him like that.
Our messing around with the ventilation system didn't go unnoticed. Mr. Hamish realized that we knew.
Inspector, could you arrange the body, please? I should like to examine it. The mark around the neck is very visible. He died instantly.
Holmes, His left shoe is unique. This anomaly is often a characteristic of...
A club foot. Bravo, Watson. That is the key element of this case. Something about this rings very oddly.
Why do you say that, Mr. Holmes?
Why? Because of Mr. Hamish's club foot. Oh, I deserve to be kicked from here to Charing Cross. I should have noticed it.
But, Mr. Holmes, I can't see why.
No, I don't suppose you do. You must recall that Mr. Dunn was locked inside the Colonial Collection Room by the murderer. If it was Mr. Hamish, he would have had to run up to his workplace to trigger the fan situated above it, taking into consideration the condition of his foot.
Well, it is still possible.
Perhaps, but it is rather strange that such a person as Mr. Hamish decided to base his plan on the speed of his gait.
You mean to say that somebody helped him?
So the suicide is questionable?
Correct. Mr. Hamish accuses only himself in his letter, and so the investigation stops.
Possibly an accomplice, then? That idea had not occurred to me, Mr. Holmes.
I have another idea, Inspector. Thanks to the testimony that we have collected, we are able to rebuild the events as they took place that day.
With a timeline, such as we did in the Jack the Ripper case.
Precisely.
The map at the entrance of Kью-Gardens should help us with our timeline.
Let us analyze the facts and statements so that we may recreate the events of that morning. Perfect, Watson. Now, let us ascertain who assisted Martin Hamish in killing Montague Dunn. Inspector, the case can be closed. Martin Hamish operated alone. He was meticulous in his planning, down to the smallest detail. And yet, we arrived at the truth.
Well, I must thank you once again, Mr. Holmes. Without you, it would not have been possible.
If pushing a man to his suicide seems fair to you, Lestrade, then we are even.
Mr. Holmes, you did what was needed
to not appear in this inquiry. I thank you for your discretion, Lestrade.
Where are you going, Holmes? Have you been invited somewhere?
We
have
to the...
at dinner. I can't...
What?
All right. We may...
Not a...
Main... Ah, sounds hedgehog goulash. Street... And it goes...
Ah, I can...
Or we...
What's...
Oh, Mr. Holmes.
It is fine, Mrs. Hudson.
Mr. Holmes.
We...
You have to help us, Mr. Holmes.